Welcome to our deep dive into online food delivery in India. You've given us some really interesting research on how this industry is booming.
Yeah, it really is.
And we're going to explore not just the numbers,
Right.
but what's driving this massive growth and the potential challenges ahead.
It's a fascinating case study
Yeah.
of how technology and changing lifestyles are reshaping a traditional industry.
Absolutely. And the first thing that jumps out at me is the sheer scale of this boom. The research indicates that India's online food ordering market was worth a whopping $28.3 billion dollars in 2022.
And it's projected to hit nearly $117 billion by 2028.
Wow.
That kind of growth isn't just impressive. It's a sign of some pretty fundamental shifts in how people in India are approaching food and convenience.
So let's dig into those shifts then.
Yeah.
The research points to increased smartphone access and affordable data as major catalysts.
It's important to see this not just as people ordering food on their phones. It's a reflection of a digitally connected population, increasingly comfortable with online services. Think about it. This level of digital penetration opens doors for all sorts of innovations and business models we might not have imagined a few years ago.
So it's not just about the food itself, it's about the way technology is transforming the entire ecosystem.
Exactly. And that ties into another huge driver, the sheer convenience online food delivery offers. The source talks about convenience at your fingertips.
Right.
And in fast-paced urban lives, that resonates strongly.
I can definitely relate to that. Sometimes cooking just feels impossible after a long day. But the research goes beyond individual convenience, right?
Absolutely. Think about dual-income households.
Yeah.
A growing segment in India, ordering an AG becomes less of a luxury and more of a necessity to manage busy schedules. And of course, the pandemic really accelerated this trend.
Yeah, that makes sense. Suddenly, safety concerns became intertwined with convenience, and people were looking for reliable ways to get food without risking exposure.
And that need for reliability drove innovation on the platform side as well. We see major players like Swiggy and Zomato partnering not just with established restaurants, but also tapping into a network of local eateries.
It's interesting, though, because while that sounds beneficial for both sides, more choice for customers and wider reach for smaller businesses, I wonder if it also puts pressure on those smaller restaurants to compete on price and delivery times.
That's a great point. Partnerships aren't always a win-win, and it's crucial to consider the potential downsides for smaller players who might not have the same resources as larger chains. This is where the discussion of cash burn strategies becomes relevant.
Okay.
These platforms often offer huge discounts and promotions, essentially spending a lot of money upfront to attract customers and gain market share.
But isn't that risky? How sustainable are those strategies in the long run?
It's a gamble, and we've seen companies struggle to maintain that aggressive spending. Zomato, for instance, has recently shown that profitability is possible.
Yeah.
But it took time and scale to achieve that.
So it's a high-stakes game where the winners are the ones who can outlast the competition and build a loyal customer base.
Right.
We've got this incredible growth. But the research also highlights some interesting trends that's shaping how the industry is evolving.
Right.
The idea of hyperlocal networks stood out to me.
This is where things get really interesting from a strategic standpoint. It's not just about expanding across cities.
Right.
It's about platforms focusing on specific neighborhoods or localities within those cities.
So instead of blanketing a whole city with services, they're laser focused on smaller areas.
Yeah.
Why is that important?
Well, it's a move towards efficiency, yes, but also about personalizing the experience. Imagine a platform using data to understand the specific tastes and preferences of a particular neighborhood. They can then tailor recommendations, promotions, even delivery options to what's most likely to appeal to that specific community.
That's a level of granularity I hadn't considered. It's not just about getting your food quickly, it's about making sure it's the right food and the right experience for your area. It's like they're creating mini ecosystems within each city.
Exactly, and it's a model that can be adapted as they learn more about local preferences.
What I also found intriguing was the mention of cloud kitchen platforms like Eat Club and EatShore entering the mix.
Oh yeah, cloud kitchens add another layer of complexity and opportunity to the landscape. These are essentially delivery-only restaurants, operating multiple brands or menus from a single location.
So instead of having a traditional storefront, they're focusing purely on fulfilling online orders. What's the advantage of that model?
Well, efficiency is a huge factor. They can streamline operations, minimize overhead costs, and experiment with different cuisines or concepts without the risk and investment of a brick-and-mortar establishment. It also allows them to reach areas where traditional restaurants might be scarce.
That's a fascinating disruption of the traditional restaurant model, and it makes me wonder about the long-term impact on the dining experience as a whole.
It's a question worth pondering. As these platforms and technologies evolve, how will they reshape our relationship with food, with restaurants, even with our own communities?
It's definitely something to think about. We've seen the incredible scale of this industry, the forces driving its growth, and the innovative strategies being employed. But of course, no boom comes without its share of challenges, and we'll delve into those in the next part of our deep dive.
It's striking how this seemingly simple act of ordering food online opens up a window into much broader social and economic trends.
It's true. We've been talking about technology and convenience, but what about the social impact? How is online food delivery changing the way people in India interact with food and dining?
It's an area ripe for further study, but we can certainly draw some inferences from what we've seen so far. For one thing, it's blurring the lines between eating in and dining out. The location becomes less important than the experience itself.
Right. I've definitely had those nights where a fancy restaurant meal ends up on my coffee table while I'm in sweatpants.
Exactly. And think about social gatherings. Ordering in has become a go-to for casual get-togethers. It takes the pressure off hosting, allowing people to focus on connecting with each other.
So in a way, it's facilitating social interaction, even if it's not the traditional dinner party. But does that mean traditional restaurants are losing out?
It's certainly a challenge they need to adapt to. They're not just competing with each other anymore, but with the ease and affordability of staying in, they need to offer something unique, whether it's a specialized menu, a loyalty program, or an atmosphere you can't replicate at home.
They need to give people a reason to get dressed up and go out?
Precisely. And it's not just about the food itself, but the whole experience. Which brings us to the customer experience in online food delivery. What makes it positive beyond just speed?
Well, for me, communication is key. I like knowing where my food is and when to expect it. Real-time tracking has been a game changer in that regard.
Absolutely. It reduces anxiety and makes the wait more bearable. Then there's customer support. If something goes wrong, a responsive and helpful team can turn a negative experience around.
It's about feeling like a valued customer, not just a transaction. And personalization matters too, right? Recommendations based on my past orders, special offers, those little touches make a difference.
They can definitely foster loyalty. But let's not forget the other side of the equation, the delivery personnel. They face unique challenges in this rapidly growing industry.
The research mentions traffic congestion and poor road conditions. Those factors must make their jobs incredibly stressful, not to mention dangerous.
Absolutely. Ensuring their safety and well-being is crucial. Platforms need to provide adequate training and support, and think about how algorithms and delivery routes can be optimized for safety, not just speed.
And then there's the issue of fair wages and benefits, which ties back to the debate around classifying them as gig workers or employees.
That's a complex issue with legal and ethical dimensions. Platforms need to find a balance between providing fair compensation and recognizing the flexibility many delivery personnel value. And this is where regulation comes in.
It's clear that the regulatory landscape in India plays a huge role in how this industry operates. The research mentions the complexities of food safety taxation and licensing, but it doesn't go into much detail.
It's an area that deserves more attention. For example, the implementation of the Goods and Services Tax, GST, has been a challenge because different food items and services are taxed at different rates. This adds a layer of complexity for platforms trying to comply with regulations.
It sounds like a logistical nightmare. And then you have the ongoing debate about the classification of delivery personnel. What are the potential implications of that debate for the industry and the workers themselves?
Well, if delivery personnel are classified as employees, platforms would be legally obligated to provide benefits like minimum wage health insurance and Social Security. This could significantly increase operating costs for these companies.
But it would also provide much-needed security and protection for the workers. It's a balancing act between the needs of the business and the rights of the workers. And it seems like the outcome of these debates will have a ripple effect across the entire industry.
Absolutely. And it highlights the interconnectedness of these seemingly separate issues. The decisions made around regulation, labor, and technology will shape the future of online food delivery in India.
So while we see this incredible growth and innovation, there are also these underlying tensions and complexities that need to be addressed.
Exactly. It's not just about celebrating the boom, but understanding its nuances and potential long-term consequences. And that requires looking beyond the hype to the human stories at the heart of this industry.
Speaking of looking beyond the research, hints at some exciting potential developments on the horizon. What are you most interested in seeing unfold?
Well, the idea of drone delivery is particularly intriguing.
Drone delivery, is that even feasible in India right now? I can imagine the logistical challenges, especially in densely populated areas.
It's definitely still early days, but several companies are already running pilot programs exploring the potential of drones to deliver food and other goods.
What kind of impact could that have on the industry if it becomes widespread?
It could be revolutionary. Think about faster delivery times, reduced reliance on ground transportation, and potentially even lower emissions. Of course, there are significant hurdles to overcome, including safety regulations, air traffic management, and public acceptance.
It sounds like a logistical puzzle on a massive scale.
Yeah.
But if they can crack it, it could fundamentally change how we think about delivery. What else is on your radar? What other innovations are you watching closely?
I'm fascinated by the rise of virtual restaurants. These are restaurants that exist solely online without a physical storefront. They operate out of kitchens that are specifically designed for delivery, allowing them to focus on fulfilling online orders.
So it's like a ghost kitchen, but instead of housing multiple brands, it's a single brand that only exists digitally.
Exactly. It's a low-overhead way for chefs and entrepreneurs to experiment with new concepts and cuisines without the risk and investment of a brick-and-mortar establishment.
It's a fascinating example of how technology is blurring the lines between the physical and digital worlds. And it seems like it could create some really interesting opportunities for both restaurants and consumers.
Absolutely. It allows for greater flexibility, creativity, and potentially even lower costs for consumers. And for platforms, it opens up the possibility of curating unique and exclusive dining experiences that are only available through their app.
It's like having access to a secret menu that's only available in the digital realm. What other digital frontiers do you see this industry exploring?
Well, I think the integration of augmented reality, AR, and virtual reality, VR, has a lot of untapped potential in this space.
Now that sounds futuristic. How could AR and VR be used in online food delivery? It's not like you can actually taste the food through a screen.
Not yet, at least. But imagine being able to visit a restaurant virtually through an app. You could explore the ambiance, browse the menu in 3D, even interact with other diners. It could add a whole new dimension to the online ordering experience.
It would be like a preview of the restaurant before you actually go there, or a way to experience it for the comfort of your home. It could be especially appealing for people who are new to a city or want to try something different without the uncertainty.
Exactly. And it could also be a powerful tool for restaurants to showcase their brand, their menu, and their atmosphere in a way that's much more immersive and engaging than traditional photos or descriptions.
It seems like the possibilities are endless. But as we've discussed with all this innovation, comes a responsibility to consider the ethical and societal implications.
Absolutely. As this industry continues to grow and evolve, it's important to have conversations about sustainability, labor practices, and the impact on local communities.
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, and it's clear that online food delivery in India is a dynamic and complex ecosystem. But what's the one key takeaway you want our listener to remember? So for our listener who's been with us on this journey through the world of online food delivery in India, what's the one big takeaway you want them to walk away with?
I think the most important thing to remember is that this industry isn't just about food. It's a microcosm of the larger transformations happening in India, driven by technology, shifting demographics, and evolving consumer behaviors.
We've seen how it's reshaping our relationship with food, with restaurants, even with our own communities.
And it's not just about convenience or choice. We've also unpacked the challenges, the competition, the regulatory complexities, and the ethical considerations surrounding labor practices and sustainability.
Right. It's a reminder that even the seemingly simple act of ordering food online is embedded in a complex web of social and economic forces.
Exactly. So where do we go from here? What does the future hold for this booming industry? I believe we're on the cusp of even more dramatic changes.
What kind of changes are you envisioning? We've already touched on drone delivery and virtual restaurants. Is there anything else on the horizon that has you particularly excited?
Personalization is an area I'm watching closely. As platforms gather more data about our preferences and habits, they'll be able to anticipate our needs and tailor the experience in ways we can't even imagine yet.
It's almost like having a personal concierge for your food cravings.
Exactly.
But with that level of personalization comes questions about data privacy and how that information is being used.
Yeah, that's a crucial point. As consumers, we need to be aware of the data we're sharing and demand transparency from these platforms. And beyond personalization, I think sustainability will become even more central to the industry's future.
We've already seen a move towards biodegradable packaging and electric delivery vehicles. But What else can be done to minimize the environmental impact?
Well, it's going to require a multi-pronged approach,
Sure.
from sourcing ingredients locally to optimizing delivery routes for efficiency,
Okay.
and even exploring innovative solutions like reusable containers or composting programs.
Sounds like a lot of work, but also an incredible opportunity to create a more sustainable and ethical food system.
Absolutely. And I think consumers will play a key role in driving that change.
How so?
By supporting businesses that prioritize sustainability and demanding transparency from platforms, we can shape the future of this industry.
So it's not just about ordering food anymore. It's about making conscious choices that align with our values.
Exactly. And it's about recognizing the interconnectedness of everything from the farmers who grow our food to the delivery personnel who bring it to our doorstep and the technology that connects it all.
That's a powerful message to end on. Thanks for taking us on this deep dive into the world of online food delivery in India. It's been an eye-opening journey.
It's been my pleasure. It's a fascinating industry that reflects so much about who we are and where we're headed.
And for you, our listener, we hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity and given you a deeper understanding of this complex and evolving landscape.
Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and most importantly, keep enjoying the incredible diversity and deliciousness of Indian cuisine.